mega. This is really exciting. So good to see everyone. It's great to be at the third conference. So reporting annual change and building social capital. So I think this is the building social capital bit. So I'm here today and I'm going to speak to you a little bit about something which I think is a bit of a what if. Okay, so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about, what if we did something that was truly special, that really brought that visibility of how incredible some of our coasts are. And that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. But I'm going to take you on a little bit of a journey through that too. So I'm Michael Copleston, so I'm Director for RSPB England. We've got more than 100 reserves around the country, and I do policy, fundraising, engagement, and a whole variety of things as well. Just this week I happened to be on the Isle of Wight, and I was on the Isle of Wight looking at white-tailed eagles. What an incredible return of those to that place. And funnily enough, there's a bit of a link there for me between the white-tailed eagle and where we might be right now with how the RSPB, but many others, are looking at the East Coast. And that's because, if I take you a little bit back, just about 6 years ago, our RSPB team, we all got together at Sherwood Forest. You might have heard of Sherwood. It's Robin Hood territory. But we all got together at Sherwood Forest, and we were thinking big. We were thinking, what's the kind of big things that could be really exciting? And we thought about, what if a white-tailed seagull flew down the coast? And it flew down the coast, what would it see? What would it be that white-tailed eagle would see? What would be special about that landscape? And recognising that we as RSPB at that time, and still do, have about 25% of our nature reserves along that east coast. So you might have heard of places like Minsmere, or Titchwell, or Frampton, or maybe down at Medbury, or even Wallasey Island. And we've also got lots of our landscapes and our relationships with partners and how we try and get things done. So we thought, what could be incredible? Well, let's have a look at this bigger picture for the East Coast wetlands. And then in 2022, there was a golden opportunity, and it was to consider a government-led initiative to put forward for UNESCO World Heritage. And so it was a really interesting opportunity. We'd already been thinking about this East Coast wetlands approach, and then we had this opportunity to look at whether World Heritage status could be a really beneficial thing. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that today. But to start off with, I'm just going to take you back, and this is me about 20 years ago. And funny enough, coming here today to Lincoln, I live just down the road. So you can actually probably see my house, and you can even see the reserve I'm going to show you in a minute from the top of the hill. So how many of you have been to the top of the hill with the cathedral? Many of you? Yeah, Peregrine's on the top of that cathedral at the moment. I think that's really special. Tallest building in the world at one point. What an incredible city. But just starting locally, this was me more than 20 years ago. I happened to move down here from Islay, where I've been working on an incredible little island, working on a variety of things. But I came here to work on a minerals project, and that was to work in the Trent Valley. So from here, you can wind down the Trent Valley, and you've got an incredible series of nature reserves, whether that's with the Wildlife Trust, and we at RSPB work with Tarmac to create a huge habitat. Now, why is that relevant for today? Well, it's interesting because we're looking here, north, and that's the River Trent there, and it's still tidal at that point, so nearly 80 kilometres inland. And I've actually seen a common seal bobbing up and down in that bit there. And it's just incredible. Now, why have I shown you this picture? This is a pretty grainy picture, but this goes way, way back to when I've been restoring some habitats as a site manager, locally here, at Langford Lowfields. And this is all the habitat restoration. This is when it looks like the moon. This is when you need to not panic. This is kind of like, is it going to work? But we do all this landscaping work. And there's a really interesting link here to the coastal work, because this is where it started my journey on some of the coastal work. So this is Langford going back a good while. And it's the creation of habitat, wetland habitat, using diggers and dumpers and lots of exciting things right next to that river. And what does it look like now? Well, the key thing is that it's changed enormously. So this is what it looks like today. So you've gone from it looking like the moon to now having this incredible wetland. And that incredible wetland is now really diverse, and it's delivering for so many more things. And a funny thing that someone said to me once, probably about 5 years ago, they said, I think you've brought the Norfolk coast to Nottinghamshire. And it was true. We've now got marsh harriers, and we've now got bearded tits, and we've now got a whole range of things. There's more than 200 species that have been represented here. But why is that interesting for us here from a coastal perspective? Well, the interesting thing is that I go there now and I see different things. Does anyone know what this one is? Yeah, it's a bitter. So my work there was working on a science-led approach to try and find out how we can make more habitats for threatened or precious species, and doing it with contractors and working in ways where we work with industry. Later on in my career, there was an ask that came from China. And in China, there was an opportunity to do something which required some expertise and some knowledge of how to do engineering schemes, but in a coastal environment. And I'm going to shoot you across the globe now. So from local, right here on our doorstep, I'm going to take you across to a place just near Shanghai, and this island is called Chongming Island. Now, it's the largest sedimentary island in the world, okay? And it's got a national nature reserve on the end of it, which is called Chongming Dongtan. And the size of that nature reserve is quite breathtaking. So I've been used to, as a site manager, working on a 200, 300 hectare site, and that was big for me. I was really excited by that. I came to this site, and it was 20,000 hectares as a single reserve. But what they were looking to do was to create a 4,000 hectare wetland to be resilient to the threat of a non-native invasive on that coastline. A really, really interesting project. And what was fantastic was the ability to see species that were similar to ours, but different. So what you can see here, I'd be amazed if someone could tell me what this is, but this is a reed parrotbill. It's almost like a bearded tit, but on steroids. And that's what you get over there. There's another bird here. Can anyone give me an idea of what that is? It's a spoonbill. It is a spoonbill. But this is a black-faced spoonbill, an incredibly rare bird, slightly different to our spoonbill. And it's not eating shrimp, it's eating a mud skipper, which is quite fantastic, I think. And I started that work back in 2013, and funnily enough, just in the last year, I went back for the World Coastal Forum. That is me sitting up there on that table. And I managed to go along to the World Coastal Forum to talk about the merits and benefits of taking a bigger approach and doing coastal adaptation, and really having confidence in being able to make things better for nature. And it's wonderful to work with partners in China to do that. So why is that important for us here today in this World Heritage status? Well, the thing that's really notable for me is that what we recognise is that we're not alone in this. We learn so much from what we do by connecting with others across the world. So the RSPB really feels confident in what we can do, working with partners here in the UK. But absolutely, we've learned so much, whether it's from America, from going to the Netherlands, from going to places like China, Korea, and we've seen how we can take our skills, but likewise we can learn and bring things back. And one of the things we recognised was that in many parts of the world, you would see World Heritage status for natural conditions, and that was something that was providing a great recognition for the importance of places, but also leading to pride, celebration, protection, and improvements. So I think it's a really interesting story. Now, bringing us right back to here today, though, I'm going to give you, first and foremost, that white-tailed eagle view of the coast. I think you all know the coast, but let's see if I can show you a slightly different view of the coast with a short video, and hopefully this will come up now. Now, I've not got any sound, I've not got any sweeping music or anything. You're going to have to see if you can spot somewhere that you recognise. I put a couple of names up there in a few places, but what I thought I'd show you is just when you lift up, and if you can imagine being that white-tailed eagle, and you're flying down that coast, you are seeing that we've got some of the most incredible habitats, whether that's salt marsh, freshwater, grazing marshes, but really importantly, those mudflats, okay? So those mudflats in the estuarine conditions, quite literally is world class, okay? And the quality of that mudflat and those coastal conditions is why so many birds and so much wildlife thrives on our east coast. So that's a couple of examples there of both what it looks like, and you might have noticed a few dumpers and diggers. I am a bit keen on a dumper and a digger, as you can probably tell. And that's because not only have you got some incredible natural features, but you've also got, where we've worked, as many partners have as well, on the creation of features, the improvement, or the adaptation. And I think that's really interesting too. So, I could kind of give you a list. We think this is true. It's a really great example of coastal adaptation, nature conservation management. We've got some incredible stories. Just last night, when I was kind of thinking about what I was going to say today, I happened to put on the TV, and then I saw that there was something about the London Underground. And there was the Elizabeth line. And there was the story about Crossrail and how the creation of Wallasey Island, and there it was on TV. We've got these incredible examples of coastal management and working with adaptation and innovation. And again, we've got this, as I would say, world-class complex of wetlands across that network, supporting millions of birds. And what's really noticeable is that it's actually important for quite a lot of birds that are threatened and declining. But we thought we knew that, but we need to do a bit more testing of that. And for us, this opportunity came about whereby we could see that World Heritage status was a good way, not just to talk about protections like SACs or SPAs, but World Heritage status is a really nice, almost easy to understand for the broader public and communities representation of why somewhere is important. But we need to bring the science to it too. And just as a quick sort of segue, well, where are we? We're right in the epicenter of what's known as a flyway. There are about 8 flyways across the globe. Flyways are really important because I think we often think that the birds are our birds, but these birds don't really know the borders, and they're sometimes flying maybe from the Arctic or all the way down to the southern tip of Africa. These are incredible journeys that these birds are flying. And what you can find is that some of these birds see our part of the world, this east coast, as one of the most important parts of their journey. It's the superhighway that leads them to the most important service station that they might have in their life. It's what helps them thrive. So this is really interesting that here we are in the centre of that East Atlantic flyway. So that gives you a picture of where we are. So I'll shoot you forward to just where that opportunity came about. So 2022, we had this opportunity to put it forward. Again, RSPB have been leading that, but it's about the government putting forward a tentative listing for World Heritage status. But we have to help them make the case. And it's not just about RSPB, it's about a network of partners, communities, representatives, statutory bodies, all coming together. But this was mega. So we thought this was a long shot, but it came off. Okay? So there was tentative nomination that was accepted by government to put forward the World Heritage status, to test it, to sort of see what more we have to do. But this first step of having tentative listing was really big news. I got to go on the radio with Colin Murray, and he was really excited about it. Turns out he's a really big birder and likes the natural wildlife, and it was fantastic. So really good news on this. And again, you can see that kind of stories that we've got that sort of shows that that link globally was also important for us too. So since that tentative listing, lots of work that's had to happen. So the formation, if you like, of a working group that's helping to test how we sort of do the assessment of the merits of having World Heritage status. And you can see here a good list of all the various different people that are starting to get involved. And there's room for more, okay? There's room for more people to be involved in this. That's really important. And because I'm the RSPB here, you're going to have to forgive me, but I'm going to come back to birds every now and then. But I just wanted to make sure you got a couple of facts and figures. So when you can see birds like this, and I put the names on here so you can see it, but things like red knot, 92% of that population moving through that flyway coming here to the east coast. You've got dark-bellied Brent geese. Hopefully some of you have seen those in some places, like at Frampton. Incredible. But we're talking about significant populations of these birds using these places. It's really incredible. Right, I'm going to talk 3 levels now, very quickly. I'm going to talk local, then national, then global, because I think that matters. I think what we would recognise that this is an ever-evolving landscape. And you'll probably, hopefully, those of you in the room that are with ABP MER, where would we be without ABP MER? I mean, that's what I kind of think. That's one thing I would say in this room today. Thank you so much for working with us. They were commissioned to help us with pulling together the assessments, and some of these slides are from them as well. But they have been fantastic, and they're everywhere with all of our work, all jointly, I'm sure. But what you can see here is that this is an ever-evolving landscape, but this is a landscape with people in it. This is where we work, this is where we live, this is where we play, this is where people's businesses are founded. You can see that places like the Humber Estuary, that's 14% of our port activity in the UK. It's incredible how busy some of these places are. And you have to look at where World Heritage status can make sure that we can build that pride and that recognition of the importance of the local spaces that we have. I'll take you up a notch to the national. So the facts and figures are really good as they're coming through. So you can see that East Coast area now used by 1 million water birds annually. There's 30 species in globally important numbers. Fantastic numbers again. And that funny map on the side, you might be wondering, what is that weird ring that's set out there? That's just a simple, really neat story, a demonstration of how important the wash is at the epicenter, if you like, of the East Coast. There was a godwit that left from there, was heading south in its migration, entered into atrocious weather just north of Bilbao, decided this is terrible, then flew out towards Ireland, and it landed literally meters from where it started. And the reason it went back there is because it's the best place for it to get reliable, high-quality food. Okay? So nationally, this is a really important space for us, and you can see some of those facts and figures that back that up. Now globally, this kind of links back to that story I mentioned about China. We are seen here in the UK as a global leader in adaptation and coastal management, and that's something that's really important. So hopefully those of you in the room might recognise some places. You've got Freeston there, you've got beneficial use of dredge material being used there, you've got some floating diggers, very exciting. You've got some wonderful topographical maps. We do this incredibly well. I mean, Wallasey is one of those largest rewilding projects in Europe that the demonstration of the art are possible. It's fantastic. And that's Wallasey there. And you can see going back through time, whether it's regulated tidal exchange, managed realignment, these are all exciting things. Now, just very briefly before I finish up, World Heritage status, why here? What does it mean relative to everywhere else? Well, we don't have, in England, any World Heritage status that's designated for nature. You've got, like, the Jurassic Coast, but that's for geology. What you can see is that we have the second highest birds per hectare in the whole of the East Atlantic Flyway. We're a fifth of the size of the Wadden Sea, but we've nearly got double the birds. So the comparisons are really promising in terms of how valuable it is here. And what I would say is that the next steps now is that we go through much more work. There's a preliminary assessment that's been drafted, tested, looking at the universal value that we bring. And there's two things that are super clear. One is that, yes, it is globally important for threatened and declining seabirds. And two, this is a global exemplar of how you look at adaptation in dynamic environments. And that's what we've got here on our coasts. So what can you do? I'd love you to talk to us more. If you could talk to Milo, if you could put your hand up, Heisindo, if you could put your hand up. These people are here working on this at the moment. There's many others as well. If you think you'd like to be a part of that, please speak to us. Please join in. And lastly, just a quick message of hope and opportunity. I hope you have a brilliant day today. I'm going to stay all day and see if I can speak to you through the room. But I've seen phenomenal stuff on our coasts. And even in the last few years, we've seen a 7% increase in little terns on our coasts. Now this is against a backdrop of so many declines in many other places. So I want you to think that we can do something. The what if, the can we do something special? I think it's there. So I hope you have a brilliant, brilliant day. Lovely to see you all, and thank you so much.